Hello everyone! Today I'm going to be going over preparing henna to dye your hair, so let's get started. These are the ingredients that you'll be needing, so let's go ahead and put these together. I am using 1 cup of henna. This is usually enough for me, and my hair is pretty long, so you have to make sure that you have a good quality of henna. If you look at this bag right here, you'll see that it doesn't have any chemicals. It's PPD free, no ammonia. So yeah, try to get something that's a good quality because you're going to be putting this on your hair, and the whole point is to try to not have all those chemicals on your hair and being absorbed into your body. So let's go ahead, and I'm using 1 cup like I mentioned before. So you just measure this like you would any other. It doesn't have to be exact. I just tried to get it as close as possible. You guys may be wondering why I have apple cider vinegar out. I'll go over that really quick. What you're going to be doing with that is you're going to be adding it to your henna once you start mixing it up, and you actually put that in first. And what it does is it has some acid in it. You could also use you can use some lemon as well, and I usually put about 1 tablespoon in with the henna initially to start mixing it up. And what this does is it just helps the color really come out. It helps the henna to really release the color. And the water that I'm using is just room temperature. If you were to use hot water, your henna would be ready to use immediately, but the color would just be more brassish, very harsh. So I'm going to be using just regular water. So I'm adding a little bit more henna just in case, because my hair is a little bit longer. So there's the apple cider vinegar, and like I said, I'm going to be taking this and just doing 1 tablespoon's worth, and I'll just be mixing that in initially before I add any water, because I want the henna to come into contact with that first. But back to the water, if you were to use cold water, it would take longer. So what happens with the henna is it's released more quickly or slowly based on the temperature. So when you're preparing this, if you were to use just regular temperature water and you were to let it set out just on the counter, it would take about 6 hours for the henna to release its dye. If you don't have enough time and you want to do it days beforehand, you can stick it in the refrigerator and it will be ready in about 3 days or so. You can leave it in a little bit longer. If you were to use hot water, you could use it almost as soon as you mix it up, but you're not going to get enough color, and it's more prone to fading if you do it that way. So I will actually put a link down below to a lot of the sites that I've used for reference for how I mix up my henna, and they've been really informative. So I'll go ahead and put a link to those down below so you guys can reference that. And you can actually get different shades in your henna. Obviously henna itself is red, but you can get lighter shades or darker shades if you want. Indigo will have a little bit of a different color than just using amla powder. Amla powder will also darken it a little bit. You can also do a mixture of chamomile with your henna, which will produce a lighter color. And you'll see in the next video my putting it on my hair. I'm a natural blonde, so it reacts a little bit differently with my hair as far as getting the color. But again, those links that I'll put down below will be able to explain a little bit more and give you more of a visual of the effects that it has on different colors of hair. So what I'm doing here is I'm just mixing it. I want all those lumps out, and you slowly add the water. You don't want to dump it all in because you don't want it soggy. You kind of want it the consistency of yogurt. And what this will do, once I let it just sit, it will release the dye. And what I'm doing is I'm just doing the henna. I mentioned indigo earlier. You don't add anything to your henna, no matter what you're doing with it, until you're ready to use it. You have to let that dye release. So I'm not adding any indigo right now. I'm not adding any alma powder or anything like that. So I'm just going to be letting it sit. And you don't want air to get in there. So you want to use plastic wrap to really cover it, because air is going to dry it out. And as soon as your henna dries out, it will stop dyeing whatever you want it to dye. You're trying to get that dye to release. You don't want it to dry out. So go ahead and cover it with your clear plastic wrap. And another thing I should mention is you never want to use a metal bowl or metal utensils whenever you're doing this. You want to use plastic, or you can do glass as well. So this next section, I'm going to be adding my indigo. And again, I use this brand because they put right on the box that they don't use certain chemicals in it, and it's just a really good quality. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be slowly mixing this up as well. I'm going to be using my water. So I'm starting out with 1 tablespoon. And what I'm doing, how I determine how much I want to use is how dark I want to do it. I'm going to be using a tablespoon plus 1.5 teaspoons. And basically what the difference is there are 16 tablespoons in a cup, and so I'm trying to get about 1/10 ratio to the henna and the indigo. And so I'm just going to mix that up, and I don't want any dry pieces. I want it to be totally mixed up, so that's why I'm mixing the tablespoon first, and then I'm going to add the remaining amount, and I'm adding water as I go. But just making sure I'm getting all those lumps out, because in this step you want it to be really smooth so that you can mix it really well into your henna, because if you don't do this, you're going to have clumps of henna that are going to have different shades, and you want your hair to be pretty consistent throughout. So here I'm going to be adding again the extra teaspoon plus 1/2, and again just going through the same process. And again, I'm going to be just mixing this in. And I should mention through this that the water that I'm using is filtered water. It would be best to have water without any chemicals in it. You can get water just at the grocery store that's purified through reverse osmosis, and that will really help you not have any other chemicals in this, and they won't be reacting to the dyes as well. So you really want to keep this mixture as pure as possible, if you want to put it that way. If you guys have any questions or comments, again, just put all those down below, and I'll try to get to those as soon as I can. I've done a lot of henna dyeing as far as on myself. I've been doing this for a few months now. It's been since Thanksgiving, and so this has been the best technique that I've found in order to do this. So yeah, here's my henna. It's been in the fridge for 3 days, so I'm just gonna mix it back up and make sure it's all smooth. And you may find that your henna initially had some lumps in it. This is just really gonna smooth it out because it's had some time to just absorb that water. And if you find your henna is a little bit thick, you can add a little bit more water to it, but you can see that mine is actually a pretty good consistency. So I'm going to mix this up, make sure it's all smooth, and then I'm going to be adding my indigo. And you see the indigo is actually a little bit of a different green. If you ever get your powders mixed up, you can just put a little bit on some wax paper and add some water to it and let it sit for a little bit, and you'll be able to tell which powder is which. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in to my henna, and I am going to mix this as thoroughly as I can. Like I said, you don't want any variation in color. You don't want lumps of your hair to be darker than others. You want it to be pretty consistent. So yeah, I'm going to be starting mixing it up, and you can see it in there, and just continue until I can't see any variation in the green. and just scraping it off the sides. And just making sure that it's all very smooth. And my hair is about medium length. I know you can't really see it in this video, but it comes down to about the middle of my back. So this usually is enough for me. In my next video, I'll show you actually putting it in my hair, but I found that 1 cup usually does it for me. So yeah, let me know what you guys think, like and subscribe, and stay tuned for my next video.